Saxon's Trig, lesson 108, is about matrix addition and multiplication. Now, when we did matrices, we know that it is this series of numbers in our symbol here, and then we did the determinant of those with the absolute value looking symbol of the same numbers. Now, this is not using the determinant part in this lesson. We're talking about this being added with another matrix. And as long as they have the same amount of numbers, so if it's a 2 by 2, 2 row, 2 column, and it's being added with another 2 by 2, that I can do 0, 1, 5, and 9. So for the addition, it's very easy, and it works the same with subtraction. As long as you are matching up the number with the correct spot, so 2 plus it's matching 0, then the answer for that would be 2. 1 plus 5, 6, 3 plus 1, 2, 2 plus 9, 11. We have an answer that's also 2 by 2. And if we were subtracting these, then I would say something like 2 minus 0 is 2, 1 minus 5 is -4, 3 minus 1 is 2, and 2 minus 9 is -7. So it works very easily when we're doing addition. Now the multiplication one is a lot trickier. They take a long time to explain on page 604 about the addition, but I feel like it's so simple you're not really going to have a problem with the addition or subtraction. All right, but before we jump into multiply, there is a limitation because of the way the multiply works in which kinds of matrices I can multiply. So on the top of page 605, they tell you that you can only multiply matrices whose column length, so if it has 3 columns, can be multiplied with if the second one has 3 numbers here, here, and here. So it works as long as the amount of columns in the first matrix is the same as the amount of rows in the second matrix. Okay, again, they take a long time to explain. They talk about commutative property. Then they change gears and say, oh, you can't use the commutative property when you're multiplying matrices. So let's jump into the nitty-gritty finally on page 607 with example 1. And I'm going to need space. 4, 6, 2, 3, -2, 5 is, oh wait, no, example 1, oh, I don't need space. This is a minus. -3, 4, 5, -2, -4, and 6. So that's simple. So we do 4 minus 3 is 1, 2 minus, oh, 5, it was hard to read that, -3, -2 minus a negative makes it positive, so that becomes 6. 6 minus 4 is 2, 3 minus -2 is add 5, 5 minus 6 is -1. Double checking the answer, yes. Example 2. Now we get into a multiply. 2, 3, 4 with -3, 1, 5 is multiplying with 1, 4, 2, -5. So how many columns do I have? 2 columns, which means as long as I have 2 in my row, I can do the multiply. So the key here with this is, and they sort of show you a, like S with P11, S with P12, and they're kind of wanting you to memorize the formula. Again, why memorize a formula if I can just kind of memorize a pattern that works? So what you're going to do is a row times a column, and then put that answer together. All right, I'm going to jot the space here, but I'm going to do the work and then kind of fill them in. So 2 times 1, I'm working row and column, and then add that with -3 times 4, And that should be the first spot's answer, which gives -10 filled into this first spot. Now we're still working on the first row and the second column. And it's easier when I have a pencil and I can move my arrows that way and it keeps me on track. So it's still row 2 times now 2 plus -3 times -5. So that's 4 and 15. So 19 in this spot. Okay, so now we move to our second row and back to the first column. So that's going to give us 3 times 1 plus 1 times 4, and that's going to be 3, so 7, and then change to this, so 3 times 2 plus 1 times -5, so that's 6 minus 5, 1. And then we move to this row and back to first column, so 4 times 1 plus 5 times 4, so 4 and 20, 24, and then to this one, 4 times 2 plus 5 times -5, so 8 and -25, is that 17? -17, yes, okay. So -10, 7, 24, 19, 1, and -17. So that is the answer to the multiply. So again, using my arrows keeps me on track as long as you're remembering it's always row times column. And then like I said, changing those arrows each time helps me keep it organized. And I like to do my work down below. The book tends to do all of it inside the matrix. I just find it easier to jot it and then fill it in, but that's just me. Now, example 3. They give us 0, -1, 3, 1, 0, 4, 2, -2, 0. And then they ask us to multiply that with 1, -1, 0, 0, 0, 1. So you see now I'm dealing with a 3 by 3. That's a lot more complicated, but the pattern still holds. That's why I don't want to memorize a pattern for everything. So we're going to work with our rows times, oh, let me do my equal so I have a spot to fill in answers. Okay, so row, column. 0 times anything, great, I don't need to worry about that one. 1 times 0, oh, don't need to worry about that one. 2 times, just a second, I went the wrong way, hang on. 0 times 1, nothing. 1 times, oops, yep, I did need that. 1 times -1 plus 2 times 0. There's the other one I don't need. Okay, so -1 is all I get there, so I fill it in. Okay, now row this column. 0 times the first, oh, 0 doesn't matter. 1 times 0 doesn't matter. 2 times 1, beautiful, that's 2. Okay, now down to the third column. 0 times 1 doesn't matter. 1 times -2 is -2. And 2 times 3 is 6. So now we fill in a 4 here. Okay, that's all of first row. Now second row, first column. -1 times 1 is -1. 0 times doesn't matter. -2 times 0 doesn't matter. So this one's -1. All right, same row, second column. -1 times 0 doesn't matter. 0 times 0 doesn't matter. -2 times 1 is -2. Now last one, -1 times 1, I'll just use that -1. 0 times doesn't matter. -2, that's -6, so that should be -7. And now back to the beginning. Third row, first column. 3 times 1, 4 times -1, and 0 times 0 doesn't matter. So 3 and -4, -1. Middle. 3 times 0, oh, doesn't matter. 4 times 0 doesn't matter. 0 times, oh, doesn't matter. So this has to fill in as a 0 because I didn't have any answers. And now the last, 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times -2 is -8, and 0 times the 3 doesn't matter, so 3 minus 8 is -5, and there is the answer to that multiply.